Well, good morning, everyone. Thomas Montgomery here. It's a beautiful Tuesday morning, December 3rd, 2024. We get together most weekday mornings at this time, and we focus on educating on our dual mandate regarding fundable shelf corporations. And that sounds like a lot of jargon, so let's break that down. What does that mean? So, as shown here on the screen, our topic today is fundable shelf corps. We're going to talk about it from two perspectives. If you are or you know someone that's looking for funding to start or grow a business, I think they should know about how fundable shelf corps work. May not be the right fit for them, but I think it's important that you educate them about the attributes, the benefits of a fundable shelf corp, which we'll go through, so you can do that today. And then secondly, if you are, and so that falls under number one, right? So we're a 501c3 nonprofit dual mandate. First thing that we have received grant funding to do is to improve financial literacy and increase access to capital. Because you know and I know there's no shortage of small business owners that want to need money. But is that enough? Absolutely not. There's not a lender in the world that cares about how bad does someone need money. Instead, they care about is the applicant qualified, or what you and I call fundable. So we're going to break down what it takes to have a fundable business today, so everyone's on the same page, and then also understand how the fundable shelf corp can provide that. Our second mandate is to work with community leaders across the country, like many of you, who are interested in doing number one, improving financial literacy and increasing access to capital. How we're going about number two is significantly different as of now, as of December, as from before. Before, we had a lot of dabblers, great people, smart people, motivated people, but they were dabblers. And it didn't really allow us to get the community penetration that we need. So, for example, and we'll talk about it down here in mandate number two in a few moments, but we want to work with strategic partners who are active in their communities. The local bankers know who they are. They know that you're able to assist their clients when they're not able to get qualified for loans. You're visible, you're present, and so that is a big change. But let's first talk about mandate number one, which is understanding the product, the program, the deliverable. We like to use this comparison sheet that's here on the left. Now, we also have a flyer. The flyer does a pretty good job, but it has a lot of content, and people tend to kind of tune out when they read too much. So the comparison sheet is what many of our distribution partners are using in explaining the value proposition. So let's go through that briefly. And if you have any questions, this is a great time to ask the question. You'll type it into the Q&A of Zoom. It's kind of like a chat box. So let me know. Stop me at any time if what I'm describing doesn't make sense. So you'll notice it starts with the subject line here, and the subject line doesn't say funding proposal FAQs, or I'm sorry, shelf corporation FAQs, but instead we step back and assume that the client is looking for funding. They have different options, and what we're going to do is help them in a very consultative way compare different options. The fundable shelf corp certainly is one of those, but we realize that they have other options, and this is designed to compare those. So our goal is to educate and connect with small business owners and address the problem that they have, which is typically they need access to capital to start or grow a business. We continuously emphasize the key is you need to have a fundable business. If you want business funding, we need to have a fundable business. And so we'll break down here in a minute how we deliver that and also what is required to have a fundable business. We explain that we have a legal and ethical approach, and it's built around what we call the fundable shelf corporations. Sometimes you'll visit with a client and they'll say, well, I already have a business. I don't want to get a shelf corp, which is another business. I just want to use my current business. Well, that's great. If the current business is fundable, then they're right. But if their current business isn't fundable, it may very well be easier to go get funding through the shelf corp and then frankly transfer the money over to their prior business. There are two very important rules that we need to know and keep in mind, top of mind awareness, if we're looking for business funding. As already stated, rule number one, you must have a fundable business. You must have a fundable business. And again, that's where we need you to help educate others because most people don't know what it takes. Just think of the most simple concept. If someone were to ask you, France is on the train. We have 423 of you on this morning. But let's say that someone asked France, well, what does that mean? What does it take to have a fundable business? The most immediate answer would be, well, there's the 3 C's. Remember? We learned this in school. Many of us learned it in middle school or high school. If you want to borrow money, often it comes down to the 3 C's: credit, collateral, and capacity. A lot of people don't know what you know. So by you educating them, not only are you helping them, but frankly, it better positions the value proposition of the Fundable Shelf Corp because we actually provide all 3 C's. So rule number one is you need to have a fundable business. This fundable is the adjective that we continuously emphasize. And frankly, using a fundable shelf corp is the fastest and easiest way to have a fundable business. Often, even if they already have a business that's been around a month, a year, or a decade, it's rare that we find that clients have businesses that are really suitable for funding. So we can go do a cleanup effort, or what we could do instead is provide them a turnkey fundable business. And that's what the comparison grid is here. Now, it actually gets it a little bit better because I would say most people in our society, what do they want? They usually want fast, they usually want easy, and they also usually want free. And as we mentioned here, we have received a grant that allows us to reimburse the purchase price of the shelf corp. And so fast, easy, and free, that's a pretty good combination. So let's go ahead and go through the categories here. And if you were to ever be using this to evaluate, either it be for yourself or for someone else, again, the key is to understand this column here is illustrating the value proposition of the Fundable Shelf Corp. That each other column would be completed based upon other options they're looking at. Now, you wouldn't put in SBA loan or Bank of America because we're not a lender, right? The world doesn't need another lender. There's plenty of business lenders. There's plenty of business financing available. The problem is there's not enough fundable businesses. So we are not the lender. We're what's called the technical advisor. So don't fall into the trap of saying, okay, well, I'll list SBA loans here and I'll list lines of credit here. No. We still need to have a fundable business regardless of the funding or the financing product. All right, so the first element that I think any client should consider if they're going to enter into a program or a resource, whether they're going to work with their accountant or a consultant or attorney, is the results guaranteed? Because people have been scammed and people don't want to be scammed. People want results. So in our model, absolutely, we put it in writing. We absolutely guarantee that they will have a capital raise, a large capital raise. Is that too good to be true? No, it's not. Number one, we went through an FTC audit and it validated that what we do is ethical, it's real, it's true. And then secondly, we're the technical advisors. So we're helping them improve or have a fundable business. Therefore, it qualifies. So no, it's not too good to be true. And in fact, we have access to, we work with over 1,000, not 3 or 6 or 12. We work with over 1,000 different business lenders to be able to get our clients funded. So this is a big one because regardless of all the rest, the fact that it's fast, easy, and free doesn't really matter, I don't think, unless the results are guaranteed. It's very difficult to have a compliant program that guarantees funding. We have that. And if you're working with a client evaluating options, that's where I would start. Now, frankly, where I would go from there is I'd skip the rest of it because a lot of people have a short attention span. And then I'd say, okay, well, great. We're going to guarantee you funding. The second question typically would be, let's make this a little bit bigger. The second question they're going to ask is, well, what's it going to cost me? And so a lot of people aren't very sophisticated when they evaluate business decisions. So they often will go to cost in lieu of, well, what am I getting or how does it work? But ultimately, there is an out-of-pocket cost. Reimbursed, right? Reimbursed. We've already discussed that. We addressed that here. But there is an out-of-pocket cost for a shelf corporation. The amount is $1,000. You get half of that. You send us half so we can do the work. So there is an out-of-pocket cost. So if you have a client or prospective client says, well, no, anything that cost up front, that's a scam. Well, think about that. Last time you flew to Miami with American Airlines, did you pay for the ticket before you flew? The last time you retained an accountant or an attorney, did they have a retainer? So it's common in business that you pay and then you receive, right? It's not go to Golden Corral for a buffet with your family and say, I don't really want to pay until after I eat. No, you pay and then you get your plate and you go sit down. So yes, there is an out-of-pocket cost. Half of that goes to you. So if you wanted to discount it, I guess you could. But the truth is the power is helping them understand the value proposition, educating them. So what do they get with the Fundable Shelf Corp? And then they can compare that to other options. Well, they are going to get a free business plan and financials because that's important. That's needed for funding. So that's included as they're considering other options. And I would say if the other options doesn't guarantee funding, they probably aren't really good options. But regardless, do they get a free business plan and financials with the other options? They absolutely do with the Fundable Shelf Corp. Credit. Now, I understand that we're pursuing business funding, so we want to focus on business financials. Some lenders, not all, some business lenders, not all business lenders, do look at the credibility of the business owner. So that's inevitable. So not all, but many do. So if we know that that's an issue, why don't we go ahead and make sure that the client has a strong personal credit profile? We know a lot of entrepreneurs have banged up credit. That's fine. So again, just like with the business plan and financials, it's built in, it's baked in. So is the credit improvement. People will ask, well, how long does this take? Well, what we do is not considered credit repair, and that was part of the FTC audit. We do not do credit repair. We're not a credit repair firm. However, we do work with attorneys and paralegals that can repair credit. So we can help remove negative and add positive trade lines. Always work, so there's no question about that. People will ask, okay, well, it didn't cost anything. How long is it going to take? Well, what you know, and I know, but not everyone knows, is there's different strategies, there's different approaches, different methodologies to removing derogatories. The approach that we typically use, which is a legal model, not credit repair, takes 4 days. 4, F-O-U-R, 4 days. All right, also what's included is a free commercial address. That may not be real sexy to the client. They may not think, oh, that's really great. I've been wondering about a commercial address. But if we want a large business loan, they care about the official address of the business. So we can either buy a business address or we can lease them a business address, and there's no cost for that. It's free. And we also need to have a business entity, of course, if we want a business loan, and those again are included here. So I don't think that you're going to find other alternatives that provide alternatives, I mean, other options that provide this value proposition. Gets better. So we talked earlier about the 3 C's, credit, collateral, capacity. Well, we need to make sure our clients have the 3 C's. So we've talked about credit. Now we're going to talk about collateral. So we really do transfer $100,000 to clients within 24 hours. So while it can take up to a week to get all these other items taken care of, this here is almost immediate. So we will really transfer $100,000 to them. Now, that's not cash. It's not a cash transfer. There's one more step involved. We're going to transfer real assets in the form of accounts receivables. So that goes on their balance sheet. So that can serve as collateral. And then if they want, we can liquidate it into cash. So it can turn into cash, but it doesn't come to them as cash. And so again, that's included. I don't think you're going to find that with other alternatives. So we've covered two of the three C's, didn't we? We covered credit, we covered collateral, but what about capacity? Capacity is often known as cash flow. So you might say, well, it's a new business. How would I have cash flow? That's the wrong mindset. We need to start with what does the bank want to see, and then legally and ethically, we need to provide them what they need to see, what they want to see, so we get approval. So we have the opportunity fund. The opportunity fund is also included. It's optional. Now, just so you know, every one of these is optional. So if someone says, no, I have an 860 credit score, I don't need that help. Well, great. You don't have to take advantage of that, but it's included for free. The opportunity fund is where we start putting daily business deposits into the business bank account. Well, why would that be important? Well, it sounds kind of foolish to even ask that question, but of course it makes the bank rating stronger, improves the financials of the business, and of course it provides working capital. So that's included, and we've already talked about the out-of-pocket cost. Now, is this the total cost of a shelf corp? No, it's not the total cost. How much will the total shelf corp be? I don't know. You would have to ask one of our distribution partners because they set the pricing. But I do know that they can get started for $1,000. Half of that goes to the distribution partner. The other half goes to us to implement. All right. So with that, we've covered mandate number one. What is it that we do to help improve financial literacy and increase access to capital? Using this reference document, and there's a lot of things that our team members do. We can go out and teach at libraries and chambers of commerce, and that's a big part of what we're going to talk about with mandate number two. But the bottom line is we provide an affordable and effective solution for entrepreneurs who are looking for a turnkey business that's ready for business funding. So any questions on mandate one before I pivot over into mandate two, which is more of our delivery system, how we accomplish this? Okay, mandate number two. So there are a group of us, our leadership team, our top producers, we do incentive trips for. And so a bunch of us were in Las Vegas this past, well, I guess not the most recent weekend, 2 weekends ago now, for the F1 race. And then we stayed, that was Saturday, and then we stayed together on Sunday, and we kind of locked ourselves in a room there at the Wynn Hotel and Casino and said, let's build a better delivery system, because our program is extraordinary, but our distribution system seemed a bit clunky. So we have an affiliate role, and you're welcome to be an affiliate. It didn't cost anything to be an affiliate, and I can show you how to do that if you want. It's on 509 Pacific. Real simple to be an affiliate. But affiliates are kind of peripheral. Our focus going forward are our shelf corp stores. So think of an Edward Jones or H&R Block, neither of which is in our industry, but where there's a company that has established physical presence in communities across the country. That's where we're going with this. So we're opening shelf corp stores, and you could in fact own one if you want. And the great news is we're not selling them. Didn't cost anything. So let's talk about the highlights of our new delivery system, which we call shelf corp stores. First of all, we're doing geographic exclusivity, because the last thing that you want to do is open up shop helping people with financial literacy and access to capital, selling shelf corps, and then all of a sudden realize you have a competitor across the street. That won't happen. We're going to have just one shelf corp store per county. Now, that does not mean that you couldn't pick a county that you want. Let's take Dallas, Texas, for example. Dallas, Texas has millions of people, and the traffic is kind of rough. So you could have one person that has multiple offices within a given county, but that would always be under the control of one Shelf Corp store owner. And that was a question we had from yesterday. But there won't be anyone competing with you in your county. Does that mean you can't help people from other counties? No, but you can't go into other counties and market. You can't go into other counties and educate. You need to work your county. Turnkey business model. So the nice thing about the Shelf Corp store is we're doing all the work. You're the local community interface. You're running your Shelf Corp store. You're setting prices. You're supporting clients. But we're going to be behind the scenes doing all the work. So that makes it a lot simpler for you. So literally, we can get you making money day one. If you look at the financial projections, if you haven't seen those, I can send those to you. We do anticipate a six-figure monthly income. People will ask, well, is everybody making six figures now? Sadly, no, because we're consumed with a bunch of dabblers, people that do a little bit of this and a little bit of that. That's what we're trying to get away from with our Shelf Corp stores is, we have these top producers that are making six figures, but frankly, under the old system, we had a lot of people that were dabbling and making nothing or next to nothing because they just didn't have enough focus on it. So going forward, we're going to be opening Shelf Corp stores, one per county. And I've got a question of making the screen bigger, but I don't know that that's going to help you much. All right, expanded support. So compared to what we've done in the past, the owners of the Shelf Corp stores are going to have more support. So number one, they'll be surrounded by other motivated Shelf Corp store owners. We'll continue to have these daily trainings. But what's really exciting is we have in-person trainings. We're actually meeting again with our realtor today. We're down to the two final properties. We're going to be buying, not leasing, but buying a new commercial property. It's going to be our flagship Shelf Corp store, and that's where we're going to be having our in-person training. So you'll be invited to come in and train with us, one-day training to make sure that you're well prepared if you want to run a Shelf Corp store. Next bullet, you control all client communication. So that's another significant difference. So when our Brain Trust was there in Vegas, one of the things that they said is clients can get confused, different people talking to them, and it just can confuse them. So we won't do that anymore under the Shelf Corp models. Under the Shelf Corp store model, you or your staff will control all communication. We're going to do all the work. That we're like your back office. But your staff will be the only ones communicating with the clients. So there'll be a better client experience. Leads won't be a problem. $100,000 startup allowance. Now, I think it was Claude yesterday. I forget. There was a couple of people that were worried that that's not enough. Well, this is probably enough for working capital, but you're right. If you're going to go out and purchase a physical office, because we do want the Shelf Corp stores not to be ran out of your back bedroom, right? It needs to be a physical commercial office where people can come into. You seem real, you seem present, and we're better positioned to collaborate with other community leaders. So we'll work with you. If you want to buy an office for your Shelf Corp store, we can facilitate the financing for that. That would most likely need to be above the 100,000. If all you're going to do is lease, then the 100,000 should be enough to get you going for payroll, marketing, your office lease. I encourage you to buy because most people realize that buying real estate is a smart investment. Both of the properties that we're looking at today have tenants. So what's great is if you buy an office building that has tenants, then you get to use the space you need, and you have other people using the space you don't need, and they're paying you. And often they can pay enough to cover the cost of the building. And then the last point I wanted to make on the Shelf Corp store is we're not trying to sell you a franchise or a territory. It's not about selling you something. It's about just simply finding our distribution partners that really want to get deeply involved. All right, Gary's asking, do they have to be full-time? So you as the Shelf Corp store owner does not have to be full-time. But yes, the Shelf Corp store does need to be open full-time, needs to be open at least 40 hours a week. Because again, we don't want to half-ass it. And this is not pointing fingers at Gary, but a lot of you want to dabble. And if you want to dabble, great, be an affiliate. You can dabble as an affiliate. But if you want to run a store, it's like, would you go buy a Domino's pizza franchise and say, I don't really want to sell any pizzas today? That'd be horrible, right? You don't do that. So, timeline. Let us know if you want a Shelf Corp store. And again, we need to make sure that your county's available. So we're only going to have one per county. Now, again, once you have that county, if you want to have multiple offices or satellite offices, sure, you can do that. And just so you know, we're building this largely off the SBA model. The three of us that started all of this, we used to work for the SBA through SBDC offices. So a lot of what the SBA does for their delivery system is how we're building this, just so you know. But let us know. We need to figure out which county you want, make sure it's available. If it's available, then we need to quickly get a realtor and go look for an office. It's up to you. You can rent an office or you can buy an office or buy an office building. We'll facilitate the financing, but we want to have a true office. I think it was Jeff's. Someone yesterday said, hey, I have a massage therapy clinic. Can I use that as my office? Well, no, that'd be horrible, right? People come in and they're expecting a happy ending and you're offering financial literacy. So no, we need to run this like a dedicated business. So if you have different suites, then you can kind of get around that. But we do need to have an office. Then you'll come into our in-person training. We'll be having those at our flagship Shelf Corp store. Now, again, we've not bought that building. We're down to the two final, but soon we'll buy that. Depending upon which of the two buildings we buy will determine how much rehab needs to be done before we start having the training there. But in the meantime, we will have the trainings at an offsite location, and then you'll be immediately open for business. So this is not a long ramp up time at all. So who has questions on what we've covered today? We've covered that we have a 501c3 nonprofit. We have a dual mandate. It's to improve financial literacy with increase in access to capital. That's very important. But the way that we do that is how many of you can get involved. You can open a Shelf Corp store, not trying to sell you something, and then you can be positioned in the community as the go-to resource. And the easiest way to explain that is when I worked at the SBA, one of the things that we did is we had quarterly banker luncheons. So we would rent a room and we would invite all the business bankers in. We'd provide them lunch and we would educate them and build relationships. That's an example of what you would be doing, because you never have to worry about leads if you're really present and observable and visible in your community, because the need is dramatic. These business bankers have lots of people, most of them, that want funding that don't qualify. Well, they could be referring them to you. We could get them set up with a Shelf Corp store, and we could turn around and send them back to that same bank to get funded. With support, Madison is your best go-to resource. Her phone number, 903-352-3390. That's actually the main number for our nonprofit, which is called 509 Pacific. Here's her email. Oh, here's her email, and this is our website. if you say, hey, this is exciting, I want to help people, but I don't want the responsibility of running a Shelf Corp store, you can go to 509 Pacific and you can become an affiliate right there. It doesn't cost you a penny. We'll provide you a free landing page. You can get paid to refer people in. Makes it real simple. Okay, so who has questions, comments, concerns? Ken wants Orange County, Florida, and Orange County is open, Ken. So if you want to give us a call or email us and we can get that set up for you. Ken also asked, do we help with the financing? Yeah. So if you decide to do a Shelf Corp store, we're going to provide the minimum of 100,000 for the startup, and then for the office, which I mentioned right here, Ken, we can facilitate the financing. So again, and this is not about Ken, but a lot of people think, oh, it's hard to get funding. No, it's not hard to get funding, but we need to have a fundable business first. Once you have a fundable business, getting working capital loans or getting real estate loans is not challenging. All right, any other questions, comments, concerns? Otherwise, we'll be back tomorrow morning, same time, same place, pretty much the same message. You know, we've got about 3,000 counties that we need to fill. We need to have a Shelf Corp store to have geographic access, a good big footprint across the US. So our focus over the next few months is to get those 3,000 Shelf Corp stores open. And so if you want one of those, it's great. It's not a financial burden to you. It's a financial blessing, if anything, because again, if you understand the financial model, you should be making at least 6 figures a month running a Shelf Corp store. All right, thanks everyone. We'll talk to you soon. Give us a call or an email if you need assistance. We'll be back tomorrow morning. Have a good day. Thanks. Bye.